Let's see if I pop up. Hey. Oh no, what happened? Am I on there? Ooh, that was strange. Not 6 o'clock yet. According to the old. Yeah, it is. According to my computer, it's 6 o'clock. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Raven County Rag, where we get together and it's old ham radio deal where guys would get on the frequency and shoot the chew the rag, talk about what's going on in each other's communities and so forth and so on. That was a communication system long before we had television or uh, very early days of radio, before television, before computers, before microwaves, before all and the internet and all that stuff. So I just kind of robbed that, the Raven County Rag. Uh, First of all, what do we stand for? Who are we? We're a community of like minded people who care about our community, who care about our family, friends, and neighbors. We care about our environment and natural resources, and we know that we can count on each other. And we look out for one another, and we always exercise trade when we can. Uh, so I guess the thing I always like to do is let's talk about being grateful for the things that we do have. It could always be worse. Believe me, it could always be worse. So we should be grateful for the things that we have in the moment, and that would be the things that surround us and are most precious to us. Anyway, having a grateful day. I hope everybody's had a good week, man. This warm weather has really turned my thoughts to gardening and doing a little fishing and all that kind of stuff, ready to break out of cabin fever that I've had for probably since Christmas or before Christmas, Thanksgiving maybe. It's been a cold winter, boy. Oh, gas bills high. I don't. How about y'all? If y'all had a high gas bill this year, drop me a comment. Man, another thing, that energy is really something else. I know Georgia's building a lot of those. What do they call those dadgum things? Server centers. Uh, that artificial intelligence, it sucks a lot of energy, and Georgia Power just doesn't have the capacity to keep up with it. Now, this is speculation on my behalf, just knowing what little I do know. That they're those uh, server centers, they suck up the electricity, and of course supply and demand, and then demand and price, those graphs that you study in economics. I think it would be macro economics. Anyway, it's just getting high. I see Georgia Power up here where I'm at, servicing the dams, trying to ink out a little bit. Had the big nuke plant come on, the new phase of the nuke plant down there I guess on the Savannah River. They're demoing the darn coal plants. I don't know if they're going to put the brakes on some of that stuff or not. Maybe re-up some of these plants and get them. If you don't maintain those power plants, they fall to shambles in just no time. No time. So I'm afraid that, well, I'm not afraid. I'm speculating that energy is going to be a big deal. And of course, you see the new administration focusing on energy, but I don't think our oil production and gas production is going to be able to manage it in the long term. So my suspicions are they're going to come out with these new nuclear reactors, and I believe they're a lot safer. They've got a lot of years on them now. I know we had the Fukushima and the Chernobyl and a couple other incidents. Lessons learned. Uh, we're going to have the power. There's just no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Uh, We can smoke the planet out using diesel and gasoline, but one thing's for certain, that's a limited resource. It may last 50 years, may last 100 years, may last a decade. I don't know, but it's a limited resource. Whereas nuclear fusion, nuclear fission, that's the kind of thing that brings the sun right onto us, and we can capture that energy, generate and capture that energy, um, and give us a lot of energy for a long time until we can advance ourselves technologically enough to make solar or wind or some other form of energy more available, more economical, more dependable, I should say, along those lines. Anyway, we're here to talk about, I got carried off on the environmental thing, but uh, we're here to talk about things here in our community. And besides, I had to fill up some time, right? I don't know. Am I still going? Yeah, looks that way. If anybody's watching and y'all can't hear me, just heck, let me know, and we'll try and get her fixed. I'm still trying to learn all this stuff. There's a lot of stuff you can do with this OBS, and as the channel grows and I learn more to make this more interesting, we can have guests. We can do a Zoom call with 2 or 3 people want to talk about a particular subject. We can set up a Zoom call and hop on there for a portion of the 1 hour program. Or if y'all want to go further, I don't care. Somebody can be on the thing all day and all night. I don't care. All I know is I've committed every Thursday from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and I'm going to stick with that best I know how, unless I have to go out of town or something like that, and then I'll try and notify. I don't know how all that'll work out. The future will tell. Maybe have a guest host step in and do it while I'm gone if I need to scat out. And hopefully this Rabun County Rag will become a source of information where we can get on and have lifetime discussions. And we could talk about the hunting seasons and the fishing seasons, or we can talk about growing our crops, or we can talk about some practices we see that are good, or some practices we see that we don't look kindly upon, and is there a solution to it, and is the other party willing to work out a solution if it's beneficial to them? That's one thing that you always have to do. There has to be benefit for all parties. Like, I think in politics they call that compromise. I call it just making it so everybody derives a benefit from the action. And working as a community, we can certainly do that. But anyway, anything from trading hogs to farm equipment to peas for sale or hay for sale or anything like that, if you've got that kind of thing, this can be the resource you can come to. You send me a text and I can sit here and say, hey, got sewing, or I got somebody here who wants to sell such and such, and then we can create some kind of system where we put you in contact through a DM or a messaging system or something like that, so that we could put a buyer and a seller together. And there may be some trade. Who knows, man? If I need a dozen eggs and you got a gallon of milk, I think we can work something out. I don't know. Eggs is pretty darn expensive. Give me 5 gallons of milk. I don't know. You have to work it out. But all kinds of trade. You need a carpenter. You need firewood. You need an arborist. Arborist? What the world is that? If you need an arborist, landscape guy, somebody to cut your grass, a plumber, or anything like that, you can make contact through this and do it. Or if you have a question, hey, I got this thing and my such and such, my so and so is doing this and that, and somebody on the system here on the OBS can look at that and go, oh, hey man, that might be this. You could have those side conversations. I believe I've done it before on YouTube. So y'all can have side conversations, talk about particular issues you may have, or and get together. You know, make it a resource. That's what we want, is a resource to be able to get together and aid one another, knowing that perhaps we're in the same community. We know each other, go to church with each other, get our hair cut, same place, same grocery store. Maybe you can get, if you got a small business, you can get on here and say, hey, y'all come see me. I got anybody who in here can come in and just say hello and get a cup of coffee, and or get a piece of pie for a discount just to come in and say hello because you're part of the community. I don't know. Whatever y'all want to do. Last week, I think we talked about a review of our past seasons, our hunting season and fishing seasons, how well we did. What was taken, or did you catch any bass? Did you hunt any deer? Did you get any, trap any beaver, shoot any squirrels, get any coyotes? You know, those are just things that we can talk about. And if you've got too many coyotes in one place and you need some help hunting them out, and you're a landowner, maybe some of these guys on here, when it catches on, they can say, yeah, hey man, private message and reach out to you and say, hey, I'll come do that. You know, got a buddy, got a new rifle. We want to zoom it in. I think we can take care of those coyotes. Or if you got a barn, you got too many rats or too many pigeons, somebody come shoot them out for you. I don't know, whatever you need, man, get together. Ain't nothing wrong with have a little squab. I think that's what they call pigeon. Hang around barns eating all that dung. Never mind. Or if you've got some fields you want somebody to hunt, you know, you got too many deer and nobody's got a lease on it, you could put that message on here or let us know, and somebody might be willing to offer up, say, hey man, we'll come and lease that from you, give us a price. Y'all work that out. I think I done got the camera moving again. Lord, what a deal. So I need to change this camera around, because when I make a certain motion with my hands, it'll read it and it interprets it saying, follow me. And so then it's tracking you around the darn, tracking you around the darn. Anyway, I closed one thing out and practically lost now, but I'm not going to let it upset me. I don't imagine I'm holding anybody up. I don't see anybody on here. I see myself messing around. I can't figure this stuff out. I'm like, some technical assistance. Y'all know anybody who can offer me some technical assistance? All right. If you see my lips moving and you're not hearing any sound, somebody wave at me or send me a message or something, or I guess I'll find out on the replay when I see how it turned out afterwards. Let's see, where were we at? Oh yeah. Review of last season. How'd we do? You know, anybody do any trapping? If somebody's watching this later on, if y'all do any trapping, what kind of trapping do you do? I'm kind of, I've seen some healthy population in old river otters. I know that just in my out and about. I know where some of them are. I don't know if I may plead ignorance or tell you a story. I don't know if they need to be trapped or not. Depends on how many they are. If you're in for the pure financial gain, I'm afraid you trap them all out and ruin the resources. I think those little critters went through a time where they were almost extinct anyway. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Leave me a comment. I don't mind trapping, but I like it to be done responsibly. If there's too many of them and they're eating the fishing holes out, and there's too many according to what we have to use a resource, and I say use the DNR or use any kind of resource available to us, and make determinations in our community and county and state, if we have to call in that, and determine what that healthy population needs to be. And if there's more than that, then we can trap until we get a healthy population. It's like, what is that? It was some animal. I don't remember what it was. Squirrels. I had so many squirrels in this small town I was doing a demo job on. All them squirrels look so pathetic. Man, I look at these old devils around here, boy, I tell you what, the ones around here are healthy, but those were so overpopulated uh, on an island. Uh, Places like St. Simon's in Georgia, Sapelo, yeah, Sapelo Island, Cumberland Island, St. Simon, Jekyll. They've got squirrel populations, and sometimes they get overrun. Or how about what's that other city? Somewhere here in the South. Where was that? Where was that? As it was strange too. Man, keep jumping this thing around. Where was that? What was that? It was another cats. Cats. Where was that at? Was that on St. Simon's or was that down in Miami? Cats or chickens? Dang it. Man, this is such a crazy thing. I want it to go right there. Now, what was over here? Now, y'all excuse me. I got all goofed up again. Darned old things messing with me the whole time. See, I got several of these tabs open. I'm trying to learn how to share things with you if we needed to share something. And so I'm fooling around on another screen here, running another program, since we don't have a lot of people on here. But y'all don't hesitate to leave me a message, whether I'm getting out all right or not. Let's see what we got. And remember, if you see it stuttering occasionally, it's because I'm operating on satellite. Got to hit the uplink and carry it to a ground station where it's hardwired into the net. So if you see me stuttering, that's what's going on. I'm beginning to wonder if I should have went out and took a leak before I got started. Hope that's not too rude. I hope there's nobody that sensitive in this bunch. But you know what? I'm going to suffer through it unless it becomes an emergency. So, season last year, and then whatever you took, even if you're a trapper and you're trapping some of those river otters, I I'd like to know your technique, how you set your traps, they've got feeding lanes or there's slides where they go in. I like to tell you a story. I was fishing down on the Chattahoochee, and I cannot remember where it was. Palisades, maybe? And I was fishing a back eddy. The river was flowing one way, and then it had a little hook in it, and it had a back eddy. And as I was in there, I was waiting. I was poking around with the fly rod. And, man, I wasn't paying much attention fishing toward the end of that eddy and stripping toward me. And something went bam. it sounded like an explosion, boy. And I just jumped up and I turned around and looked behind me. All I could see was two little old eyeballs, just like my fingers, about that far apart above the water. And I don't know if y'all have ever, in some spots, the river, especially in an eddy, they're hard to get out of. You're up to your chest where the bank is, and you're in an eddy, and you're in the water's up to thigh, mid thigh, or somewhere like that. And you trying to crawl up out of that thing, buddy. I was scrambling. That thing scared the patooey out of me. Darn old beaver. I bet you that devil weighed 50 pounds. I bet he weighed more than 50 pounds. He was huge. And when he slapped that water, man, it made me jump out. I thought it was a darn alligator. I'd heard stories. There's alligators in the Chattahoochee, and that's the first thing that went through my mind, boy. And when I scrambled out of that hole, I sitting on the bank, man, ready to kick it away. And I looked, and that son, I swear he grinned at me. I don't know. I didn't see him. All I saw was his eyes, but I swear he grinned at me as he did a U-turn and swam back toward the river. Wonder if I should take that out and make a short out of it. Yeah. Anyway, that's my experience with beavers. Otters have always been real kind of bashful but curious. Um, Fishing, I don't want to say where, small stream, northeast Georgia one time. And water wasn't very deep. It was winter fishing. And I'd crossed a couple holes, and I'd got myself wore out, and I was checking tackle. So I sat down there, and I heard a noise, like a squeak or a bark or something. I looked over, and on the other side of the river was one of them little black river otters. That's the first time I'd ever seen one of them things. I didn't even know what to call it. Hell, man, was that darn thing a mink? I went back, Googled, and sent Georgia Resources, Department of Resource, said, hey, we got these things up. And they said, yeah, there's some. I said, okay. There was a couple of them playing around. I guess they hang out in pairs. But that was my first exposure, because I looked at him and I stood still, or I sat still, and I just kept staring at him. And he got real nervous and shot up the bank. And I said, wow. And I'm sitting there thinking about it. And all of a sudden, he's back at the bank making noises at me, like he's going to see if I was going to eat him. I don't. And then another one came out. So I guess they were looking out for one another, and kind of realized I wasn't a threat, that we was after the same quarry, that we was going to be buddies. But they never came real close, and and they didn't shy away as I continued to fish. They kept an eye on me, though. Boy, they sure did. And they'd make their little noise every now and then. And I fished another wider part of the river before it empties into a lake, and same thing. It was across the river, and it was deep. That river was deep there. That river was deep there. And I just kept fishing, and he just kept doing his thing. And there's another place I walked, and I've seen him there. So anyway, I don't know how we got off on that sidetrack. Oh, if you're a trapper. You didn't miss much. Ain't nobody watching. If I wander off without somebody keeping me on track, I guess that's cool till somebody shows up and tries to keep me on track. So, and along with what you were taking last year, back to the review of last season, what were your tactics if you were hunting deer? Did you have more success with a bow, black powder? And was that because of the season, because of the food sources, or did you have better luck in rifle season? Toward the front of the season, was your luck better? Toward the end of the season, was your luck better? Tell me why you think so, what the conditions were. Anyway, just I want to learn and know what you think, and maybe learn something from you. And maybe I'll have something to offer up. You know, that old theory of the mastermind, when two or more minds get together and muddle through something, they come up with complete mud. No, that's not how that goes. Theory of the mastermind, when two or more people get together with a common goal and work in harmony, it it exponentially increases the brain power, because you're bouncing multiple ideas in the same course, creating different possibilities. Anyway, Napoleon Hill, yeah, that's right. Well, I talked about that in another place today, how important that is. Uh, so how I got there, I have no idea. We were talking about conditions. Oh, that's why we get together and have the mastermind, so we can be better hunters. I mean, I enjoy spending time in the outdoors, but sometimes if I'm hungry, I'd like to go ahead and get the business out of the way and get to the frying pan. Um, there's a difference between sport and survival. I enjoy the sport, but I want to be proficient if I had to survive. If I only had one bullet, I only had one match, I want to use either one of them to the best advantage for the maximum output. So that's why we need to talk about it. Y'all help me out. So, what were the conditions? What tactics did you use, and what was taken? Boys and girls, I wish. Let me see. Oh God, I'll be right back. All right. I'm gonna leave the stream going, but I gotta go pee. I'll be right back. It is an emergency. All right. That was about a minute. I normally go outdoors, but since I'm doing this, I decided to stay indoors. So that shaved about a minute and a half off the time. But we're back in the saddle, ready to go. I appreciate y'all indulging me that short moment there. I need to set up another screen that says "Be right back" and play some music on it or something. I really need to spend some time on it. Increase production values. If I get me, if just one, two, three, just, I'll keep doing it though. I'm gonna keep making noise. This thing will show me when somebody's out there. And let me check my chat. Yep. Yep. Okay, I know the chat's working anyway. I wonder how many other people went through this. Just sitting out there. I hadn't advertised. I hadn't said anything to anybody. Like I said, I'm developing content. I'm trying to develop. Oh, wrong one. Up there I am. Okay. You see me down here in the corner? Let's see. What was I looking at? I had Googled bass behavior. So I'm going to see if I can't add a window capture. Media source, window capture, window capture, add existing, window capture. Okay, y'all stay with me. And now I'm going to pick not inbox, but understand. Look at there, boys and girls. Look at what I have done. Now, am I going to stay on top? Nope. So what I got to do is move my Ozbot up or down. There I am. So look at this. So then I can hit Windows C, and I can move this and read it, and you get to see me. And let me know if this is working out all right, if you hear me, okay? So, bass fish. Let me go back to I learned something interesting today. And I guess I knew it, but I never really thought about it. Did you know? And I'm sure other fish do too, but I was studying bass just so I'd have something to read. I got books all over the place about outdoor, and I know bass season is coming up, and I've heard different people say different things about bass behavior. You know, water temperature, length of days, mating habits, mating rituals, whatever they are, and how they interact. And I hadn't gotten all that far yet. But I did learn that bass not only have noses, and maybe some other fish do. By just speculation, I would say that all fish probably have noses. And that their sense of smell is pretty good. They can detect different kind of plants, whether fish are fearful or fish are doing their spring ritual. And it's an interesting picture, and it's in this book. I wish I had a picture of it. All right. See if I think show up. Where is it? There it is. There it is. See? That is the nose of a bass. And I also learned, and it's no different from human smelling. What we smell is a chemical reaction. It's the reaction of one chemical that gets picked up by our senses and creates signals on those senses that are sensitive to that chemical makeup. And if there's more than one chemical in it, then it works. But a fish has them too. And if you look at that picture, it shows it being a cup. If you can imagine a cup. And on top of that cup, there's a flap. And water goes in and out of those flaps. When they move, water will go in from the front and out through the top. Or when they're turning or whatever, it may float both ways, but whatever chemical is in the water, they know it. And they can define certain chemicals, like we do, cinnamon versus oregano, or what's that one that I like? Smells kind of like Christmas tree. What is that? Rosemary versus fennel. You know, you can tell those differences. Or beer versus whiskey. Uh, anyway, they pick up that chemical reaction, and I forget how far they say, but it's a pretty good distance. Now, they use all their other senses too. They have eyes, but their eyes adjust slower to changes in light. So, like us in aviation, they say that you need to, be in the dark or in your environment for 30 minutes to let your eyes get accustomed to everything around you. So you can look at the instruments and see the clusters and have a low light vision. Well, fish do the same thing, but instead of them taking a half hour, it takes 2 hours. Two hours for their eyes to adjust to conditions. So 2 hours after sunset and 2 hours after sunrise, you know, they're probably using other senses than their eyes, their smell, their lateral line, and they have a kind of an inner ear. Um, but that's another strange thing. Their eyes are weird too. They've got cones and rods, so they can't see color. They don't blink. They can't blink. But their eyes function well, better than ours in high light, bright light. They see more contrast and colors and shadows and all that. I don't know if it's clearer, but it can trigger their predator instinct if you give them enough information. And the older they get, and it doesn't matter the size, the older they get, the better their eyes become. And this old fella, Larry Larson, and now this book's from 1989. I'm sure science has improved, and I need to look into it. But if it's still the case, I have enough information to catch fish. But he was saying that the big fish, the monsters, they're always caught between the hours of 10 and 2 in the brightest part of the day, because their eyes are better adapted to be in that strong sunlight. And also, if they're lurching in the shadows and cover and looking outward, their eyes work better than, say, a smaller fish or immature bass or a yearling bass or one of those things. I don't, it's got to do with size, I think. Age and size, who knows? That was just another interesting thing. Now, I was always aware of the lateral line. That stripe down the fish, it's a nerve bundle. It's a lateral line of nerves that run to the fish's brain into its sensories, where, if I thump the water or slap it with a paddle, they feel that. And they understand what particular things sound like or feel like in the water. One of the examples given by this book is that crayfish, when they move, they make a particular sound. Well, that bass knows what that is, and that'll draw him in that direction. And then things like his senses, his nose, his eyes, will help guide him to it, along with his hearing. But that lateral line is for a little ways away. That's like an early warning system or early feeding system. That's like smelling biscuits, right? You ain't got them in your mouth yet, but they're over there. I guess that's like smelling biscuits for bass. Anyway, that was interesting. What about crappie? Now, I've done a lot of crappie fishing, day fishing and night fishing, successful times and unsuccessful times in both of day and night. Side note, Ma Law had a brand new Coleman lantern. And I was going to go fishing down there on, what's that lake? West Point. I was going fishing down on West Point. You know, over the years, I'd had good luck night fishing off of, what is it, Yellow Jacket Access down there. And back in that day, boy, it was an abandoned road almost. You could just fish on that thing all night long, and a lot of people did. You got you a bucket of minnows and a lantern, and you lowered that lantern down close to the water, and you just caught crap. You just caught them. Me and my brother-in-law decided we wanted to run down there, Pat. If you ever watch this, then you'll sure to remember that. But I was poor. Well, I wasn't poor. I just didn't have money to go out and buy no dadgum Coleman lantern. And she had that brand new one, man. And I worked up the courage and I asked her. And she said yes. And we went down there, and I'd used that same old small cord that hold 100 pounds. I don't know how many times before. I put the old knot in the bail, you know, the wire you hold it from. Got her sparked off, burning real good. Had the minnows out, had everything, and everybody was bitching. I was blinding them with that light. Finally started lowering it down to the water. And it fell off. Fell, slap, boom, hit the water and gone. I pulled it up, and I don't know what DA did that, but somebody didn't tie a good enough knot, and it came loose because the end of that old rope was all squilly squirrely. You know how when a knot pulls out, that's what it looked like. The moral of that story is, I still had the money to buy a lamp because I had to replace that darn thing. Yeah. I don't know what the swing on that is. So I think that kind of gave me the lesson on borrowing. And if you do borrow something, brother, you better take care of it. I mean, inspect it before you take it, clean it before you return it, and treat it like it was your own. There's an art to borrowing, and it's a manly thing to borrow. You know, you're borrowing. You're taking a portion of that person's life on loan. And if you bring him something, you always bring it back at a lesser value than you took it just by nature of using it. But if you bring it back more than just the nature of using it, abuse, accidental breakage, and all that, then you've really taken advantage of that neighborly act. In my opinion, it's better just to keep the one you busted up and buy a fella a brand new one. That's what I think. So, and I've bought chainsaws before. I never would borrow one. No, sir. Somebody give me one and I fix it up and get it running. Hey, you want this chainsaw? Yeah, man, I need a chainsaw. Everybody needs a chainsaw. Power equipment, everything else, dude. But I don't borrow much. Don't borrow money. Only money I got borrowed is the money I owe in this house, and I'd like to get rid of that real fast. I don't know if y'all know me. Ain't nobody know me anyway. I ain't got no viewers, but if you happen to watch this, we wouldn't know whether I'd still be doing this or not. Anyway, got about 17 more minutes. Crappie. I told my crappie story. How do you catch your crappie? I've seen people use jigs, and I've done mostly minnows and But how do you know? When's the time on them? I know with the bass, it's the water temperature. Is there crappie at the same temperatures, or do they like it warmer, or they get started earlier? Is there how do they differentiate their habitat? How do they, you know, so they're not on top of the bass, the crappie, or is that a constant battle of territory under the water that we don't know about? I don't know. That's why I'm asking. And then man, them old bluegill, boy, I tell you what, I believe them's the chihuahuas of the lakes, buddy. You start messing around their nest, their little thing. I don't care. They ain't gonna have none of it. I have thrown from miniature spoons to small rapalas to blank hooks, tossed them in there, and they just didn't want nothing in there, and they attacked it with a vengeance, and they got hooked. I never really, not since I was a kid, have I kept any, but boy, I've caught them before where I could. There goes that camera again. I have caught them before where, let me get this squared away again. I have caught them before where I could not grab them in my hand. I could not get my hand on them. They were slabs. Reminds me of a story. Old church property. Belonged to the North Georgia district, I want to say. And it was on a road, Red Mill. And it was a little camp that the Methodist church had. And I was dealing with the Boy Scouts. I had a boy in it, and I tried to participate. I wasn't in the leadership. Unfortunately, I was working to keep them in the Scouts, okay, and affording all the activities and all. You know the struggle, man. But I can't remember it. I remember what it was. I said, in exchange, allow our Boy Scout troop to use that facility, and I will organize some repairs there. A couple of the cabins needed some new shingles on, and blah, 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 blah. And so we did the work, and I got to talking with the manager or the super or somebody, and I asked about the lake. You know, I fished that thing with the Boy Scouts, and I knew what was in there, and they always had fun. We sent everything back, but they didn't get to the good stuff because there's just too many of them making too much racket. You know, bunch of little Cub Scouts, barely out of Tiger Scout. But I would teach them fishing. I got another story about that too. But so I got permission to go down there because I knew I didn't keep them, and I was using a ultralight or a fly rod, and I was catching them, and that's where I was catching them big old slabs, and I wouldn't even. I mean, I would just twist them off and put them right back in the water. I had the barbs bent down on the hook, so I wasn't going to hurt them. And if they swallowed it, I just left the hook in there. I knew it'd rust. They were small hooks, number 12s. Yeah, probably 12. Probably 12s. And so they got a new caretaker. And I went in there and I introduced myself one afternoon and said I had permission to fish down here. I don't ever keep anything. I just turn it back. I mean, this is my second or third year fishing that place. And I always kept my back turned, so didn't want nobody to see one. Just didn't want to create any kind of desires. And went on for a couple of weeks, and I came down there one day, and there's about 10 or 12 of them big old bobbers, you know, about the biggest bobber you could find. They was floating all over that lake. And I said, God dang, they done fished it out. And I always used ultralight tackle, you know, the bobber as big as your thumbnail, called a strike indicator, and it was done. They must have had a hell of a fish fry. It just wasn't nothing left in there, man. Wasn't nothing left. That much time. Got time for one more, and then we're gonna try and get this is a bluegill story too, and then we're gonna move on to trout and what other fish, and we're gonna move on and call it an evening. So, my son was one of those Cub Scout, Tiger Scouts, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, and he'd been fishing with me before he could hardly walk good, and he's quite a fisherman. He knew how to do it, and had the class out there at that Red Mill Lake, and uh, I gave a fishing lesson. Everybody had little poles. And after we got done, we went down there. Of course, you can imagine a bunch of 4, 5, 6 year olds out there trying to manage them. Me and whatever other dad was available was down there managing these 6, 7 children, boys. Boys. So that was a challenge in itself, kind of reminiscent of herding cats. So Garth was catching them. And I was proud of him. And the other boys got to mumbling. He's got a better pole. You know that argument. Oh, he's got a better pole than I got. So Garth handed off his pole, and he was playing around down there by the water's edge. And he found a piece of fishing line. And he thought it was just a piece of fishing line. And so he pulled it up, and it had a hook and a weight on it. So he's out there with just a hand line, out fishing them other boys still. I'm so proud of that kid, boy. I tell you what. anyway, I think that's all the stories I got concerning Red Mill Lake. Red Mill Lake, Boy Scout in the Red Mill Lake. Trout. Now, trout season's coming on. I like to use them old, what do they call them things? Georgia nymphs. I am a Georgia nymph fisherman. Yes, sir, Bob. And I just use real light tackle, number 12, and I try to use a bait holder. You know, the kind with a couple little barbs along the shank. And I've always bend down the barb. I just on the end, the tip, I bend it down because I hate struggling getting the darn thing out when the fish. I want to get it back in the water as quickly as possible. 12 bait holder, barb mashed down, 4-pound test. Come up about, I don't know, 6 or 8 inches. Put a BB shot. If it's had rain and the water's moving real fast, I might put a second BB shot, small BB shot, smallest one you can find. And then I come out from about my nose to the tip, this far, and from where I'm holding that hook to my nose, I have one of them thingamabobbers, and it's about as big around as the end of your thumb. And I put it on there as a strike indicator. And that's on 4-pound test, and it's on a ultralight rod. I did used to use one that I built. I called it the trout switch. But darn, had gotten an automobile wreck with it, and it broke the tip off of it, and I ain't never rebuilt it. But I have an ultralight, and then one of those Zebco T11 trigger spin. You know, people, I see them out there with open faces and all this, and I like an open face. But when I'm trying to control the line, you know, like put the cast into it and go, oh shit, too much energy, and hit that trigger, it'll stop that thing and drop it. And I just don't feel like I've ever had that kind of control with an open face. Not when it was headed for the overhanging rhododendron on the other side of the creek, and I had to stop it before it got there, or I was out of time and material to re-rig that pole, that line. I didn't want to do it. I'd rather walk halfway out into the darn stream and scare the fish out of the hole than to re-rig a darn line. If you feel the same way, give me a comment down below. One of the somebody send me a message and remind me. If you're watching this sometime during the week, send me a note to tell the story about the trout fishing bear. That's a good one. I may have told it once before, but I always like to tell it again. So, trout season's coming up, and if you plan it right, if you get in there now when the season's starting to come in, before the tourists, before the meat fishermen know this, those old boys out there getting it right now, racking them up. But if you plan it right, now's the time, in my opinion, between now and whenever trout season opens, find a year round and go work that thing. Go work that thing with crickets. Go work that thing with worms. Go work that thing with wet flies, nymphs. Get it to the bottom. Get it down slow. Get it down in good cover. And catch some of them smart boys, them ones who've been educated by 5 pounds of orange glowing shit going through their gut, and now have developed a taste for insect and meat, and get turned on real quick by that. Because remember, a trout is feeding upstream. So whatever we just talked about, senses in the nose, whatever's flowing in that water, he's sure enough going to detect it before he sees it, or detects it or whatever, but he's going to be looking for it if he don't see it first. Okay. If he sees it first and it has that trigger scent that goes with it, you add those two together, you have triggered a strike. So anyway, that's the way I look at trout. If you know a better way, brother, let me know. I'm always looking to catch. I'm interested in being good at that. What other kind of fish out there? How about them old creek chubs? I'm an expert at them devils. Some days my hit ratio is 100% creek chub. I don't know. I would imagine it would make good bait for a trout. I mean, a trout would key on those unless there's something that the trout don't like about it. Makes me wonder. I think I mentioned once before I caught one big and so big I was beginning to wonder what it might taste like. Oh, we didn't get that far. Anyway, what other fish are out? How about them old pickerel, them chain pickerel? I never will forget, I caught my first one of those devils. It was on one of them long Rapalas. Had treble in the middle and treble in the back. You know, do this kind of. I'm working a dock over there on the lake. Middle of the week, I think. And I was just casting along the walkway and reeling back toward me, about 10 feet off the dock. I know, it's probably 5 feet off. I was probably fishing parallel to the dock, about 5 feet off the dock, doing I would do all kinds, rapid return or return and pause and, whatever. An arrow came out from under that dock and hit that thing. And it was whammy. That son of a gun, when I got him in, he must have been greater than 18 inches. I don't want to brag, but if they get bigger than that, brother, my 2 pound or 4 pound test ain't going to deal with that well. And so I reeled him in. I said, what the hell? And I got him out of the water and I saw all them teeth. I didn't know how I was going to get my darn bait out of his mouth, man. That was tangled up in all them sharp daggers. And I said, oh, no. I finally got him loose and got him back in there. But anyway, And then I have fished with them and caught them before just using a piece of old yellow rope. You tie it onto your line and cinch it down, and then you take the back of it and just fray all that rope out and put some heavy weight in it and get it out there and just work that devil, boy, and they'll bite that thing and tangle up in that old plastic rope, that yellow plastic rope. And then if you don't want to stick your hand, you just take a knife or whatever and cut that portion off and let him go with a mouthful of that darn plastic rope, nylon rope, whatever it is. Anyway, boys and girls, it looks like we're coming to an end here. Been at it for an hour. It says it's 7:01. If you watch this during the middle of the week, send me a message. And remember, I'm going to be here every Thursday, unless I'm traveling or something like that, every Thursday from between the hours of 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock. Anyway, I'm going to call it quits. Have a grateful day, and we'll see you